Hello everybody, Mark here with Midgard Mercantile, back for another rock, gem, and mineral live stream. We are here with lots of minerals, a lot more fossils this time, and we got a lot of stuff to show you guys. So I guess I'll just kind of go through the run through of how this works. Basically, we're going to be showing a bunch of different stuff. Each thing has a price associated with it, and I'm going to be using this lovely little showcase box here that we have to display all the neat minerals. And if you guys see something that you like, all you got to do is just put a comment in the comment section of the stream, and that should be about it. And we'll get to your order at the end of the stream. So without further ado, I think we'll take a look at some stuff here. So we did this. We featured this on our Instagram about a week ago. This is one of our smelt quartz points. This is red smelt quartz. Now, smelt quartz is a man-made mineral. It's actually a type of glass, and glass is made out of quartz silica that's melted down, usually in like sand, basically. In this case, in various Taoist and Buddhist sects and religious practices, they take raw quartz crystals and melt them down and put in different kinds of metal oxides to give like different colors and things like that to the quartz itself. So these basically are like really popular in Asia. They're used a lot in like temples and altars and that kind of thing. The colors, depending on the color, we have blue, red, there's green. Each color symbolizes different aspects of the of Buddhism and Taoism. They also symbolize different elements, that kind of thing. So these are definitely very popular in those parts of the world, in those belief systems, and also in the metaphysical community. This point here looks like we got 69 here for the price. Pretty cool stuff. These guys are definitely really nice to have like in your windowsill on your altar. They definitely catch the light really well. We've had a couple customers just really love them. Yeah, definitely they're very, very pretty. Yeah, and also too, it's kind of nice to see like all those little inclusions in there. So in this case, iron oxide is used to create this kind of red, these red kind of streaks running through the smelt quartz, which is kind of neat. All right, we're gonna move on to our next little specimen here. All right, so I think what we got here, we got some labradorite. This is a $48 piece of labradorite. Very, very pretty stuff here. Labradorite is a type of feldspar, and feldspar has some very unique light qualities. So because of its crystalline structure, the surface of the mineral will take in certain wavelengths of light and refract them, while other wavelengths of light will kind of only go in a certain depth into the mineral before just kind of bouncing off and doing their thing. So because of that, in the case of labradorite, we have different colors of the spectrum, basically kind of reflecting off of the stone, and that's because the light is actually going into the stone and splitting, and we're only seeing certain colors in certain parts of the stone. It's really, really neat. Labradorite, this stuff actually that we have here, comes from Madagascar, and labradorite is pretty much found all over the world. You can find it a lot in Canada. In fact, it was named after Labrador, Canada, in the late 1700s. So yeah, it's the story goes is that the native peoples there believed that there was a warrior that there was a warrior that threw his spear at a piece of labradorite, and when he threw his spear, it released the aurora borealis into the sky. So because of all the colors, a lot of cultures in the northern parts of North America kind of associate this with the aurora borealis. It's a big part of their culture. So kind of neat. Yeah, we have a couple pieces like this. They're really beautiful. I don't know if we can get a close-up here of some of this. Let's see if it will work. There we go. Whenever there's a lot of light reflecting out, the camera kind of gets all funky. But yeah, as you can see, though, it's as you move it in the sunlight, it's those colors just pop right out. So this piece is very, very pretty. And again, $48 for this guy. All right, we're going to move on to our next little specimen here. And just to kind of give you guys a reminder, too, we're doing this every Sunday from 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So if you guys want to put that in your calendar, please do. All right, so this is a beautiful fossil stand. We have two kinds of fossils here, two little creatures. We have an Orthoceras, this guy, and an Ammonite. So these guys were kind of swimming around the ocean about anywhere between 250 to 480 million years ago. You can find them all around the world. These guys are associated with an extinction event, and which is why we see a lot of these fossils kind of all in the same rock layer. These come from Morocco, and for thousands of years, people have been using the stone that these fossils are found in as a type of decorative stone. So the stone that this is, it's dolomitic limestone, and it's great for fossil preservation. I mean, just the environment itself. Basically, what you need for fossils to kind of become fossils is you need a creature to die, kind of just lay out in a rock layer, and then have that creature be immediately buried underneath a lot of sediment. So in this case, we probably had lots of silt, maybe lots of shells. Could have been whatever, but basically these guys were buried very quickly, very rapidly, and that allowed these little creatures to be fossilized. So the Orthoceras is basically a type of squid. It's one of the ancestors of the modern day squid. And Orthoceras, they had hard-bodied shells around their bodies. So squid today actually have shells inside their bodies that are very, very thin. They're very fragile. But squid back in the day, the Orthoceras, for example, used to have a whole long shell that covered the whole length of their body. That was mainly for protective purposes. But for whatever reason, that just wasn't a very nice or handy evolutionary tactic, because squid today don't have them. And then the Ammonite. The Ammonite is the ancestor of the modern day nautilus. They basically looked the same. They had little vesicles inside their shell that would generate gas, and the nautilus, just like the nautilus, the Ammonite would propel itself through the water by expelling this gas. So kind of like a form of jet propulsion underwater. It's kind of neat. So as we can see, this is an $18 stand, which is pretty nice, a nice price for a decorative piece for your home. As you can see, it's a flat bottom. You can rest it on a surface somewhere on a shelf. The price, basically, it's, these guys are very, very cheap because they're so common. There's a lot of them, but that doesn't mean that makes them any less special. They're very, very pretty. Definitely these are nice pieces to put around your home. These are nice display pieces. So yeah, these are very, very cool. All right, we're going to move on to our next little fossil specimen, kind of in the same vein. This guy is an Orthoceras, just purely an Orthoceras fossil. Sometimes, if you're lucky, you could probably find some ammonites in here, depending on the piece you get. But because squid tend to kind of cluster in schools, like a swarm, basically underwater, when they die, usually they die in like mass droves. So in the geologic record, we don't just find one squid in the rock. We find like millions of squid in one place. So in Morocco, that's kind of what happens. This is a darker kind of dolomitic limestone. And the white minerals that basically replaced the Orthoceras fossil, that's basically marble calcite. So basically, because these squid had hard-bodied shells made of calcium carbonate, that calcium carbonate recrystallized out as calcite, and that's why we can see these structures in the rock today. Kind of another little neat thing. So this guy here, I think, is $22, and it's pretty massive. Let's see if I can kind of scoot the camera back a bit. As we can see, it's like, you know, again, this thing stands up on its own, really, really nice. It's a bit heavy. This is great for like putting on a mantelpiece or something. Definitely one of those kind of like nice display pieces. So for me, anybody who's familiar with me or my stream, you'll know that I love fossils and I love metallic minerals. I love these guys. These guys are awesome. They're great. So definitely kind of like a good deal if you want some kind of cool fossil display in your home. So yeah, and you know, as we can see too, I also like the contrast. We usually, you know, the surface of the stone is usually kind of like polished to kind of accentuate those the squid fossils, and you know, as we can see right here, for example, usually it's polished along the whole fossil, the whole body of the fossil, and in between we actually have the rough rock. The way that these are excavated is very time-consuming and tedious. Imagine you have a workshop where all day long you are basically using dental drills, yes, dental drills, to chip away very slowly at the rock and basically reveal these guys. Any trilobite that you find on the market, any fossil from anywhere, is going to basically require work like that. You're going to have to, it's very painstaking work. So when you see something like this, if you see it just right off the bat, you might say like, oh, cool. But the amount of work that actually goes into producing something like this is insane. So, you know, if you do get something like this, definitely it's one of those things where you want to know that, and so you can really just appreciate it more. Yeah, it's very, very cool. All right, we're going to move on to our next piece here. Got a lot of stuff. I think I'm going to use this flat here and look at this, because there's quite a few things in here. We have all sorts of stuff. We have a lot of things. I think what I'll do is I'll kind of look at some of these palm stones, since that's a thing we have. So if in case you're just like tuning in, you know, we have a online store. Just go to midgardmercantile.com. Took forever to get up. It was a pain in the butt to make. But it's up, it's there. All of our tumbled stones are on there currently, and our palm stones are going to be coming up next. So definitely keep an eye out for that. But you know, we have tumbled stones. I think we have 57 varieties of tumbled stone. So yeah, definitely very, very nice. So we also have palm stones, which are a bit bigger than our tumbled stones. Our tumbled stones are about, generally on average, they're about the size of a quarter. And our palm stones are about the size of a 50-cent piece, a US 50-cent piece. So to give you an idea, that's about like an inch, maybe inch and a half. I would say probably an inch in diameter. And they're perfect for holding in your palm, which is why they're called palm stones. So I'm going to give you guys a little snippet here. These are our amethyst palm stones. As you can see, this is kind of like the size that we have here. and each one is about, pretty much the same. I mean, it's like they don't vary too much. Maybe some of the inclusions might be a little bit different. This one is kind of neat. Basically, we have like this amethyst on the top, and we have some sort of like smoky or some sort of green kind of like chlorite deposit on the bottom. But this is basically the general quality of all of our palm stones here. As you can see, pretty clear. We got a lot of different stuff here. So our amethyst palm stones are $6 each. So again, not bad for a palm stone. To give you guys an idea, generally things like this would probably be around like, I don't know, like for one, $12 to like $15, something like that. So again, for those not familiar with our business, we sell like right above wholesale, so we could give you guys like a really, really low price. But yeah, these guys are really, really nice. Now, amethyst is very cool. Most of it comes from Brazil. You can find it all around the world, but about 90% of it or so comes from Brazil. And it is a type of quartz mineral, so it does have SiO2 in it, but it also has iron, various iron ions that give it the color. So that purple color is actually due to, I think it's like an iron plus 2 or 3 ion, something like that. So it's very, very like a very like minute change. Depending on the heat, though, heat and pressure, you could have citrine, which has like just one level lower of an iron ion. So oftentimes you can actually find pieces of amethyst that actually have little pockets of citrine because the temperature changed while the crystal was crystallizing. Kind of a neat little thing. So and this guy's a bit darker, kind of like a little bit of more of a smokiness to it. This might actually be ametrine. That kind of yellow little pocket, the dark yellow pocket in there. So, again, it's not common, but it's not like super rare. So, something to think about. Again, those guys, $6 each for our amethysts. Next, I'm going to show our carnelian palm stones. These guys are $7 each, and they're very, very pretty. As we can see, carnelian is a type of agate, right? Agate is naturally banded just due to its formation process. Carnelian, however, has lots of iron in it. It's very red, very beautiful. In general, carnelian is a bit more rare, mainly because when you try to find it, usually it's found in like riverbeds. Usually you'll find agates laid out in a bed of some kind, like a big layer. And this layer will be in an ancient riverbed or, on top of like a gorge or something that's been uplifted. Erosion will break it up, take it down, and over the course of, probably thousands to millions of years, this layer gets broken up, and those pieces kind of tumble down into a river plain or a flood plain, and basically they just kind of sit there. They don't look very pretty from the outside. Most of them are kind of like all roughed up and pitted, and they look like just normal rocks. So oftentimes when you find these, they don't look that pretty, but when you cut them open, however, they look very, very pretty. They look like this. So kind of a neat little thing. So like I said, these guys are $7, and they kind of do vary a little bit. Some have more stratification, which is the layering effect. As you can see, there's some pretty nice translucency there. So the light does travel through the stone quite nicely. And so for a lot of our palm stones, generally, on our store, they're going to be sold indiscriminately. So you won't really have a choice to kind of pick and choose. So the only way to pick and choose is either come to one of our shows when we have shows again after the pandemic, or just message us and we can take some pictures for you. Yeah, these guys are very, very pretty. Yeah, in the sunlight, they're even prettier. So, all right, we're gonna move on to our next little set here of palm stones. These are just some nice hematite pieces. You know, nothing too fancy, nothing too variable. So these guys are pretty much just all the same. I'll kind of just showcase one here to make it simpler. So here we are. So hematite is a type of iron mineral, and as we can see, it is metallic, and it's quite sparkly, quite pretty. It's very nice. Now, iron in general, any of the iron minerals, anything that's kind of heavy, is generally going to have a very grounding kind of property. So if you are, you know, kind of detached or disconnected from the world, you're kind of, you know, like winds blowing around, you kind of don't have any footing on life, whatever it may be, this kind of stone would help you really kind of just help ground you and kind of bring you back down to earth. So these guys, price wise, are, let's see, $13 each. And they are very pretty. All right, we're gonna move on to our next little set here. Now we got the palm stones out of the way. Let's see what we got here. Got some pieces of amber. I think I'll show that. So this is amber from Sumatra. This is $8 each. And our amber pieces, most of them do have insects inside of them, so that's kind of neat. The amber from Sumatra is a bit darker, so as we can see, there's a little bit of translucency here. What I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to take a flashlight, because I have one, and I'm going to light it up for you guys. So this is what it looks like without the light shining through it, and this is what it looks like with the light shining through it. Take a look at that difference there. Now, isn't that cool? So as we can see, there's quite a difference here. We have like this beautiful, like kind of red color shining through the amber. Now, amber is very popular in Asia, especially China. And I'm not really too sure why. I think there's a couple reasons. Like there's like, you know, some kind of like metaphysical reason, I think. In China, there is a belief that the mineral citrine gives prosperity, and I think amber is the same thing, has kind of the same sort of property for them. So it's very interesting. But yeah, this amber is very beautiful. It has a kind of like a deep red kind of color. It's very pretty. And yeah, I mean, if you didn't put this up to the sunlight, you wouldn't even know. So it's very cool. Again, these guys are $8 each, so pretty fancy. This one's a bit more translucent. We can kind of see through it. Kind of nice. And so these, I guess, would be technically considered tumbled, you know, amber pieces. So, you know, they wouldn't be like a, you know, like a raw piece. We do have some raw amber from the Baltic area, which is quite beautiful. But yeah, these flat back pieces would be nice to set into like a cabochon or something. So, you know, whether you want these for the metaphysical properties, just to kind of hold, you want something cool, or you want to work with it, these are beautiful pieces for that kind of stuff. We're going to show our next little piece here. This one's a bit more translucent as well. As we can see, it's a kind of like in the same kind of vein as that other one. It's a bit darker, so kind of neat. Yeah, I really like this one. Let's kind of get that light again and see what this looks like. I'm curious now. Oh yeah, look at that. So definitely this is a bit more of like a golden color. Now because of the refractive index of the amber, it really kind of like will focus the light at certain points. So especially because it's so amorphous, it doesn't have a mineral structure. It's just, you know, very similar to opal. It's like very fluid-like. So, you know, it's not going to have a really defined mineral structure. So the light is going to be focusing on these points that are pretty like rounded, generally. Very, very cool. Let's look at another one. So this is our last one in the series here. And this one is super dark. Can't even see through this one. Wow. This one's like super, super dark. Oh my god. So we can kind of see that there's like some glimmer of light there. I'll try to turn it around. Yeah, this one's like the darkest one we have. Okay. That's kind of neat. Alright, well we have some black amber here. Dark amber. And a lot of this amber, I mean, just to kind of give you guys an idea, it's like so variable. It really depends. Like, you'll have parts that are like kind of, you know, filled with a lot of air pockets because they were kind of foamy when the sap was coming out. You have a lot of pieces that are like really dark or really light. Now, if you guys are, if anyone here is familiar with harvesting any kind of amber, generally, to harvest amber, you know, just in the wild, you know, tree sap is used for a lot of different things. You can use it for, you know, I don't know, like use it as a inflammatory material for a fire or a candle. You can use it for metaphysical purposes. You can use it for all sorts of things. Glue. It comes out in pretty thick globs. So imagine you're in a forest and you see a tree, and if there is a branch that broke off, what's going to happen is that amber, that sap, the tree sap, is going to basically flow out of that little opening, and over time it's just going to create this kind of plug. But this plug, because of its density, it's going to just kind of slowly flow out of the tree until you have this huge, massive like flow of amber coming out. So all you got to do though to make amber is take that and bury it underneath some rock, and then it will petrify and turn into something like this that you can work with. It won't be sticky sap anymore. Kind of neat. All right, we're going to move on to our next little grouping here. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to show this kind of neat little sphere we have. We have quite a few spheres in our shop. This guy is a $65, let's see, calcite sphere. And it's very, very pretty. Now, spheres are generally going to be a bit more expensive because of the process behind making them. They're very expensive. It takes a very long time. You need a custom grinding wheel. The machines that make these, it's a type of machine where you take a rock, like basically, I'll just kind of describe the process. You start off with a puck-like piece of material. You get a saw, a rock saw, and you cut this off into the best kind of like, you know, 20-sided sphere shape you can, right? And then you put it into a machine that has pads on all sides, and these pads are kind of convex, so the stone will kind of sit inside of these pads, and they basically, you have water and the pads will vibrate and kind of make the puck spin, and it will slowly, very slowly, it will polish this into a sphere. So kind of a neat little thing. It takes a long time, but as we can see though, it's worth it because we get this beautiful piece of rounded calcite here. So spheres are really great for like scrying stones, or if you want to have something kind of cool in your windowsill. There's many purposes, but generally pieces that are spherical like this, they just like that amber. Any kind of round shape is great for focusing light. So depending on what you have, calcite in this case, there are certain cleavage planes that will channel that light. In this case for calcite we have 2 planes. Yeah, it's absolutely beautiful. Again, this piece $65, and all of our spheres do come with a stand. So, that's something you don't have to worry about displaying. You don't have to worry like, oh, well, where the heck am I going to put it? How am I going to display it? It will come with a stand, so do not worry. All right, so this is a piece of Arkansas quartz that we're going to show next. This is an $82 piece of Arkansas quartz. Very, very cool. Now, we've shown this kind of material every single time that we do a live stream. All right, so this is like one of the things that we have a lot of. And what's kind of neat is that because of the variability of quartz, I mean, you could have points that are really big, really small. You could have clusters. You can have points that are really long. In the case of Arkansas quartz, I would, say that it is the best quality quartz in the world. You have quartz of immense quality. We call that the Arkansas Quartz Belt. There's a whole series of mines that run through Arkansas in the south. And a lot of these quartz crystals, they are from very, very old deposits. This is basically from the old Appalachian mountain range. And the Appalachian Mountains used to be a huge mountain range that I don't want to, if anybody knows this for sure, correct me if I'm wrong. It's either going to be a huge mountain belt that ran along the spine of the supercontinent of Pangaea, or it was a mountain belt that ran along the spine of the supercontinent Rodinia. So throughout Earth's history, we've had all sorts of supercontinents. The plates, they move around, they kind of smash together, and then they get broken up, and they come together, and over and over and over again. So whenever they come together, we get these huge mountain belts that kind of, go up for, a mile into the atmosphere, huge. We're talking Himalaya-sized mountain chains. And all that heat and pressure of that material just being jutted up, being pressurized and heated is going to create some beautiful, beautiful crystals. So in this case, where Arkansas is, that's where you used to have one of those mountain belts. It's just been eroded down so much that you don't even see any mountains there anymore. And if you do, the Appalachian Mountains are not known for being very tall. They're known for being very kind of slopey and kind of rounded, and they're not really mountains like the Sierra Nevada mountains. But if you think about the Appalachian Mountains that run through New York and up along the East Coast, that mountain range actually used to be just as big as the Sierra Nevada mountains, if not taller. You can find pieces of it in England. You can find pieces of it in Siberia and Europe. So that's how you know it used to be one big mountain chain. It's very cool. So again, Arkansas quartz, $82 for this piece. Absolutely beautiful. All right, we're gonna move on to our next little thing here. We got a little box of minerals and stuff. Let's see, what do we have here? We have some aura quartz. We have aura light amethyst. We have kyanite. I think I'm going to show the coral first. We did make an Instagram post recently on our cobalt coral. It's from the old 1950s lot coral. So this was a coral that was collected before the coral collection ban. So this coral has been also coated with cobalt, which gives it a beautiful, beautiful coating of blue. It's absolutely gorgeous stuff. I would recommend going on our Instagram or Facebook page and checking out the video that we posted of it. Just take a look at this stuff. This stuff is very pretty. I think I'll kind of show each piece here. As we can see, absolutely gorgeous stuff, right? So how do they make this kind of stuff? You can basically make this using anything: coral, a mineral, a wallet, a soda can, whatever you want to coat, you can coat. Generally, these are made via a process called vacuum deposition. And vacuum deposition is basically you have a vacuum chamber and you have an object inside the vacuum chamber. Metal vapor is pumped into the vacuum chamber, and because the air is sucked out, the vapor has nowhere to go. It's not going to like float around in the air. This vapor is basically just going to coat every surface inside the chamber, so the walls and the object inside. So in this case, we have coral, which it coated, and in this case, we use cobalt, right? So cobalt was used in the process to coat these. In the metaphysical community, this is used a lot in, this kind of stuff is used a lot. So think about aura quartz. We have angel aura, sunset aura. Any kind of aura quartz that looks kind of iridescent has been coated. That is not a natural coating. It is a man-made coating. Anybody who says otherwise is not telling you the truth. They just don't know. Yeah, that's how that stuff is formed. That's how it's made. But it's very, very pretty stuff. And the color index, again, especially for the cobalt, you're going to talk about like generally you're going to see these light blues, these deep blues and purples, maybe some hints of green, which is what we can see, kind of green or teal. And then if you kind of turn it, the darker areas that have been coated for a lot longer, these kind of dark spots, that's where you have a very thick coating of cobalt. That thick coating is going to add some more oxidation, which is going to give you more of a color range, which is why we can see some reds if we turn it around. Let's see if I can get a very good sort of angle here on it. But yeah, these are great. I've always wanted to make some of these into necklaces, that kind of thing. I think they'd be great. Definitely if you're a lover of the ocean, if you're a diver, if you love swimming, if you any kind of ocean-like thing, having one of these is great. So price-wise, right? We're looking at $28 each. Right? So again, this is a very expensive process. This is not only a limited resource here. We're talking about coral, right? Which we can't collect anymore. We're also talking about coral that has been coated with an expensive metal vapor. Any kind of deposition like that is going to raise the price significantly. That's why a lot of aura quartz tends to be a bit more expensive. So just so you guys know. Now, in general, we make jewelry all the time, and I talk about like, oh, I really want to make this into a necklace or whatever, and most of the time it's like we just don't have a lot of time to do that. But you guys can commission us to make something for you. So if you want, if you see a mineral that we have and you're like, hey, can you make that into a necklace for me? We'll say yes or no. If we say yes, we will basically kind of give you a quote and kind of give you an idea of how long it will take, and maybe drop some designs. So, we do jewelry, we do, obviously the rock hounding stuff. We also do woodworking. So, our business, Midgard Mercantile, we have all sorts of mercantile. So, yeah, we got all sorts of stuff. Now, this piece here I really like. We have some really kind of deep iridescence here, which is really pretty. Yeah, I really like that. That's really cool. So, again, this stuff is $28 each. Very pretty stuff. I would say, like, you know, it's very like mermaid-like, you know, very shimmery. I have never put this stuff underwater. I think it might be kind of cool. Put it in a fish tank. Now, I don't know. I will not say that you should, because it is a metal, like, you know, vapor, an oxidized metal on top of this stuff. So, you know, definitely check to make sure that kind of stuff is not harmful to fish. I do not know. So, yeah, but that answers your question. Yes, we can. It's possible, very possible. Just do your research. Yeah, this stuff is very, very pretty. Alright, I'm going to show one more piece here. This is kind of like a little seahorse, sort of. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe I'm just seeing things. Oh, maybe it is. I don't know. What do you guys think this is? I think it's really pretty. That's what I think. Alright, we're going to move on to our next little series of things here. Let's put this aside. So again, you know, just to kind of remind you guys, definitely check out the video we posted, you know, to kind of give you guys an idea of the date if you're watching this as a pre-recorded video on demand. We're talking like 2 days ago, so June 5th, 2020. Alright, so these guys are very pretty. These are both $36 each. These are Sunset Aura points. Now, these have been on the stream before. Some of you might remember. We only have 2 left. So, Sunset Aura uses gold vapor. So, a little more prestigious, I would say. So, gold vapor is used to deposit a very thin layer of gold oxide on the surface of the crystal. As we can see, the layer is so thin that you can actually see through the metal vapor deposit. So you can actually see through the whole thing. Now, the thinner the coating, the more translucent it's going to be. You can actually see through this stuff. So again, gold vapor was deposited on top of this, which is kind of neat. So again, price-wise, we're looking at $36. So we only have 2 left. And we used to have a lot more. They kind of, like, last time after our stream, they just went away. So, yeah, that usually happens. So these guys, I would say if you want one, definitely let us know. And also as a reminder, too, you know, if you're watching this as a video on demand later on after the stream, all of our streams are uploaded to YouTube. You guys can check it out. If you guys want to watch that and you see something on there that you like, still message us. We might have something left from our prior streams, so please let us know and message us. Now, this is really cool. I love, you know, this kind of like color changing index here. This is really neat. So in the metaphysical community, which is where these are like very popular, right? You have, like, you know, various coatings meaning different things. So you could have a coating that represents sun energy or angel energy or water or what have you, and each coating kind of is, I guess, thought to give more qualities to the stone. So which is why this is kind of done. The vapor deposition thing, though, you know, that's been around since the turn of the century. So about, like, you know, early 1900s. So it's not a very new process, but it's used for a lot of different things. You know, generally it's used in a lot of, like, lab kind of stuff. So industrial kind of work. Oh, well, yeah, look at that little index there, that refractive index. That's really cool. That light kind of shimmering through the stone. That is very cool. Now, what's really neat is kind of looking into this is like looking into a fun house, kind of. Because the metal is very reflective, there's going to be we're going to see a lot of color, right, to us, because we're seeing the light reflecting off of the gold vapor. But that light is also going into the crystal, and each facet acts as a mirror, an internal mirror. So, and also it acts as a window. So inside the stone, the light kind of gets trapped a bit and reflects, refracts, reflects, refracts. And because of the gold, you have extra reflectivity. So it's going to be like bouncing around in there and kind of all golden and stuff like that. So that's why we see a lot of color in this as well. Very neat. All right, again, those guys are $36 each. Very cool. Next, I'm going to show our Auralite points. Auralite is a kind of amethyst. And if I'm not mistaken, Auralite has 21 different minerals in it. It is very pretty. Commonly, you have this stuff forming in these kind of thin needles. So you have kind of when I'm describing, when geologists, when we describe, you know, like a point, like a mineral, especially if it's a point, I personally like to refer to it as like you know, in the context of a tooth. So we have the root of the tooth, which is this thin part right here, and then we have the crown of the tooth. So we have the root of the point and we have the crown of the point. The crown is where all the facets come together into an apex, into a point. And then the root is where the crystal is rooted into the side of a wall. So, or a, you know, a cluster or something like that. So generally these guys are going to be very needle-like. Price-wise, we're looking at $16 each for these guys. So not a bad price for these. Very, very cool. Very, very pretty. We used to have one that was very similar. It was an celestial amethyst, and it was massive, absolutely huge. And one of our customers commissioned us to make a beautiful bronze stand for it. And so I, you know, doing the jewelry work that I do, I managed to turn this, you know, softball-sized point into a beautiful kind of like metal stand thing. Very, very pretty. I hope they, you know, they still enjoy it and love it. We've got two more of these. I'm going to show these kind of at once here. So as we can see, again, two more. We only have 3 of these left. So again, 3 left of the Auralites. So definitely we have a limited supply of these puppies here. Now, if you look very closely, you might even be able to see some phantoming going on. So the phantoms, you might even see some layers in there, some purple layers, very, very faint kind of lines if you look through the facets. And those are phantoms. So most amethysts actually have phantoms in them, so it's not fairly uncommon. In fact, I've seen, like, you know, almost all of the pieces that we have phantoms. So again, those points, those Auralite 21 points, are $16 each. Very cool. Next, we're going to show some kyanite blades. Now, these kyanite blades are very, very pretty. Let's take a look here. So just to kind of give you guys an idea, this is the quality of the kyanite that we have. Look at that. It's very gemmy, very translucent. This stuff is $7 each. So that's a very good price for something like this, all right? So definitely very cool. We have quite a few blades left, but, you know, again, it's like, I would say we only have a handful of pieces this size. So generally we're looking at these, and there's going to be like some kind of core, which is going to be this dark stripe in the middle, and around that you're going to have this light kind of translucent gemmy kyanite, which is very pretty. Love this stuff. Show a couple more pieces here. So again, these guys are all $7 each. You know, some are a bit thicker. So the thicker that you have them, they're going to be a little less translucent, right? And these these are great for just having around. They're very good. They're nice for like an altarpiece or turning into jewelry. Kyanite, if it's gemmy enough, like this stuff, You might be able to even cut it and facet it into a gemstone, which is oftentimes what these what jewelers will do for kyanite blades like this. But yeah, look how translucent that is. Very, very pretty. This piece is kind of neat here. This is a piece that's kind of trapped in some quartz. And for $7 each, it's not a bad price too. I mean, this stuff is very nice quality, as you can see. Yeah, it's very nice. Yeah, I like them too. I think that, you know, minerals like this oftentimes are a little underappreciated. You know, and also it's too, on camera, they're not gonna like be, you know, I would say, I don't know, the camera does not do it justice, is what I'll say. And I would say that for mostly everything. You know, seeing something in person is a lot better. You know, as guys kind of give you guys a background, you know, we started doing the streaming every weekend to kind of give people a distraction and also to stay kind of afloat as a business, right? Especially during the pandemic. So, you know, it's been rough, but you know, we're working through it. But you know, it's like, again, we are actually going to plan a in-person show just before the pandemic. Well, I shouldn't say that. Just before the stay-at-home order happened here in California. So it's kind of like poor timing, I guess. But it is what it is. Okay, these guys are absolutely beautiful, very pretty, and also very translucent. So if you guys are interested in some of those, please let us know. As we can see here, I'll just kind of grab a handful. We have quite a few. We have more than this, so please let us know. They're gorgeous. I love them. They're pretty. All right, and they're $7 each. All right, so we're going to move on to our next little grouping here. We have all sorts of stuff, like I've said. So we kind of showcased a couple fossils earlier, and I think I want to just kind of continue with that because most of the streams we have a lot of minerals, and you know, I mean, we're a gem mineral and fossil business, and you know, most people just want minerals, so we have a lot of them, but we also have a lot of fossils. So I think I'll show a flat of those, and then I'll kind of look at some jewelry that we have. Jewelry is very nice. Alright, so we have a bunch of fossil mackerel shark teeth that are about 70 million years old. We have a whole box of them. This is one of our hot items. They're about $6 each. They're great for kids. They're great for a fossil lover. If you want to get somebody a cool, neat fossil that's like not too expensive, like for a birthday or whatever, definitely this is like what you'd want to do. We got like a ton of them. I guess kind of show a handful here. So yeah, I mean, to give you an idea, we have a lot. You know, we have quite a few. So the mackerel shark teeth, it's kind of interesting. We have kind of like this main central tooth here, and then it's on each side you have these two smaller teeth. You know, and I would assume that's for pulverizing meat of some kind. These mackerel sharks, they were about the size, a little bit smaller than a great white. So, you know, like roughly about the same size. They were pretty large, and mackerel sharks are still around. Sharks are very old creatures. They're kind of been roaming the waters of Earth for hundreds of millions of years, so they're a very successful creature on this planet. But yeah, I mean, it's like kind of like neat, you know, if you have somebody who's really into sharks or somebody who's really into the ocean, somebody who, you know, wants to wear a tooth around their neck or has something like this, that's, you know, this is a perfect gift for them, especially at a price of $6. So $6 each for these guys. That is not bad. They also vary in size, as you can see. Some of them are a bit bigger than others. And what's kind of neat too, I mean, these, from the side, these are pretty sharp still. Very sharp, in fact. And it's kind of crazy to think that something that was swimming around in the water this long ago, its teeth are still sharp. Probably not as sharp as they used to be. They're not razor sharp, but yeah, I mean, you could stab somebody with this. This is, again, I don't condone that kind of thing, but still, I mean, it's like, it's insane, and I appreciate the fact that these are so resistant to weathering. So these are found in Morocco. Again, they're 70 million years old. So this is about the late Cretaceous. These guys were swimming around the waters when the dinosaurs were stomping around on land. So these were like, swimming, in the shallow seas of, the Cretaceous era, late Cretaceous era. And they eat small kind of fish, hence the name mackerel shark. They ate a lot of mackerel. And I'm certain that these mackerel sharks were probably eaten a lot by megalodons. So megalodons and Mosasaurus, they were fairly indiscriminate. They would pretty much eat everything. So, I think that these guys probably suffered at the hands of them quite often. But yeah, again, as you guys could see earlier, we have a ton of these. So please let us know if you want one. $6 each. Great deal. And I love fossils. I love them. I think it's neat. I took a historical geology class years ago, and you need to get a degree in geology. And I absolutely love historical geology, like kind of figuring out and finding out and discovering how the Earth formed and why. I think that is amazing. I just love that. It's very, very cool. All right, so we have some fine fossil specimens now. And this is the flat I was talking about. We're going to move through this one, and which we don't have a lot in here, which is like kind of nice, because then we can kind of move on to the pendants. So I think what I'll show you guys here, this is an ammonite. It's an iridescent ammonite from Madagascar. It's $160. Again, we have fine mineral specimens and we have fine fossil specimens. You'll see why in a minute. Take a look at this. Now, we showed this kind of stuff on one of our first streams, only a little bit. And as you can see, this is absolutely beautiful, right? It's gorgeous. So the iridescence that you see, that is a mineral, it's a type of opal that forms on ammonites, and it's called ammolite. Ammolite is a very iridescent mineral, has a lot of fire, and it forms when you have, opalization of fossils. You only find this in very certain regions. You usually find this in areas that have hydrothermal activity and lots of heat and pressure, so some sort of tectonic activity as well. So these fossils ended up they had to have water involved to have the ammolite form, as well as heat and pressure, so very specific locations. You can find these in the Rocky Mountains in Canada. There's actually a world famous ammolite mine, and what's kind of sad is that the ammolite, as a geologist, I have an appreciation for this, right? And everybody else has an appreciation for it too, because it's so pretty, and so there's so much history behind it, I would hope. That's why. But these ammonite fossils, they are being depleted very rapidly, especially in the Rocky Mountains. And there's only one company, mining corporation, that owns the mine, and they also own the mine in Madagascar, or I guess they have rights to the one in Madagascar. And at least in Canada, you know, they I don't know how I feel about it as a geologist, because for me it's like, I love the specimen. What they do is they take the specimen, something like this, and they cut it up into pieces, and they take the colored amylite pieces and they put it into jewelry. I think that's terrible. I think that they're much prettier like this, and yeah, so definitely if you're in a jewelry shop, don't buy amylite. Buy it like this. Buy it as a specimen, don't buy it as a chopped up piece of an ammonite. It's terrible. But, you know, I guess there is beauty in everything. You know, everybody loves something. So, you know, again, it's for me, I have I have my own opinions because I'm you know, in the field. So, but still, absolutely beautiful. This piece is $160. It is from Madagascar. It is about 280 million years old. So, again, absolutely beautiful. All right, we're going to show our next little set here. This is another ammonite set, and it's also from Madagascar. It's a $48 ammonite pair. There's also a little bit of amylite on the outer ring here. So on both sides, we have maybe a little bit of iridescence, a little bit. This one has a little more iridescence on this side, as we can kind of, like, if we tilt it into the light a bit, we see that iridescence. Now, it being a pair, right, we have two sides. I guess I'll hold it up like this. Take a look at that. Absolutely beautiful, right? So, as we can see, these are absolutely gorgeous. $48 for this pair here. Now, the mineralization you see here, these little vesicles, before we were talking about how ammonites would propel themselves through the water because they have chambers inside their body. These chambers were filled with natural gas that they would create, and they would propel themselves through the water by expelling that gas. And each chamber, once it's been fossilized, because they had calcium carbonate shells, that calcium carbonate would recrystallize out as calcite, and we have calcite crystals filling in these vesicles here. So that this deep kind of orange, brown, and light tan colored mineral, that is all calcite. So again, you know, each half, you know, just absolutely gorgeous. You know, the ammonite, just in general, because of the spiral shape, has been, I mean, it's, we you know, as a mathematician, you would call this a fine example of the Fibonacci sequence. You see a lot of spiral shapes in nature quite often. So, you know, oftentimes various cultures would associate this kind of fossil, the ammonite fossil, with the idea of infinity or the universe or something being infinite. So because of its nature, because the spiral just kind of continues to spiral down. Yeah, it's very, very cool. I like these guys. And also $48 for this pair. If you go into any rock shop, I implore you to go into a rock shop and compare their prices to our prices. In fact, I do that all the time. And every single time I go, I'm like disgusted because everybody charges so much for stuff. So, and it's like, I mean, you don't need to you can make a profit and still sell things at a reasonable price. You don't have to mark it up a million times. So, you know, it's one of the reasons why I started my business. Affordable rocks and fossils for people. Alright, we're going to show another ammonite fossil. This is a $16 ammonite. This is a whole ammonite. There's no... Well, actually, there's a little bit of ammonite on here. Just a tiny little flash towards the edge there. Very, very tip. Let's see if I can turn it around so you guys can see it better. And then right towards the center, we have a little bit there. This is kind of nice. We can see that vesicle nature. See all the little chambers. So from the outside, this is what they look like. Absolutely beautiful. I mean, look at that pattern in there. It almost looks like moss or seaweed or something. It's gorgeous. And as we can see too, you know, it is a little translucent. That's that calcite in there. So calcite's going to make it look very, very, very pretty. Yeah, and I mean, I love this kind of stuff. So, but yeah, $16 for a piece like this. This is not bad. It's very, very pretty. All right, adjust this camera back over here. All right, this next thing I'm going to show you guys, this is an $8 Orthoceras fossil from Morocco. Just like the stands we showed earlier, this is just a little piece. If you ever go to Morocco and you go to a market, you're going to find this stuff. You're going to find it everywhere. You're going to find this material carved into bowls. We have Orthoceras bowls. You're going to find it carved into stands, carved into these teardrop-shaped pieces like this. And for thousands of years, the people living in the regions of North Africa and the Middle East would oftentimes use these as protective talismans. So they would actually take a carved piece of Orthoceras and drill a hole through the top and attach it to their camel or attach it to their bag, attach it to their clothes. And as you were traveling across the hot desert, this talisman would protect you through all of that. So historically speaking, that's what these have been used for. But also because the material is quite easy to work with. You know, if you have a abrasive enough material, like, you know, like a grinding wheel or something, you can carve this kind of material into bowls. So we have a whole set of bowls and plates made out of this stuff. So that stuff is a little more difficult to, like, I would say, move as a business because it's like very specific. Nobody's going to want to get that if they don't have a house and a cupboard to display it in. Me, however, if I bought all that stuff from me, I would actually use it. I think it'd be really neat to use like a stone plate for food and that kind of stuff. So anyways, $8 for this piece. Very, very good price. You know, I think it's kind of neat. And again, age of the fossil, we're talking about 280 million years old. Our last fossil in this flat here, this is a $45 Petoskey stone. So Petoskey stones, they're a Devonian era coral, and this coral, this fossilized coral, can be found along the shores of Lake Michigan. You can find it all over the place, and the species of coral is Sclerotian coral, and this is like probably one of the most common coral fossils you'll be able to find. This piece again, $45. It's from the Devonian era, so you know, just over a couple 100 million years old. Not too bad. A lot of these fossils that are found in like the Great Lakes areas and also the Midwest, that whole part of North America used to be covered in water. So during that time, there was no ice on the planet. All the ice was in the ocean. We're technically in an ice age, or I would say we're in an interglacial period. If all the ice melted, the whole center of the country would be flooded with water again. So that's what was happening a couple 100 million years ago. The North American continent had a whole thing. They called it, geologists call it the Great Seaway. So this is why you see a lot of sea-like fossils in Utah and places like that, because that whole region was just covered in water. So imagine you had this huge like seaway that was about on average 40 to 100 feet deep at its deepest point. And the seaway extended from the Gulf of Mexico through the middle of the United States, through Canada, connected all the Great Lakes. The Great Lakes were all, just one big ocean anyways back then. And it connected the Arctic Ocean, and then also the Isthmus of Panama was also covered with water as well. So all of the oceans were pretty much connected, which is kind of crazy to think about. Imagine, driving out, out to Utah, and it's like you get down into the basin, and then it's just all ocean. But I mean, it was deep enough to where you could find like megalodons swimming around out there and all sorts of other creatures. So there's a lot of sea fossils out there because of that. Same thing with coral. It may seem like it's not that shallow, but 40 feet is pretty shallow, and so is 100 feet in the water. So a lot of coral reefs would develop in these shallow inland seas, and which is why we find a lot of coral out there. Kind of neat. So yeah, I mean, it's pretty neat. You can find these all around the Great Lakes areas, and they're very pretty. This natural kind of like hexagonal shape is the main reason why these guys are so cool. If we kind of get a really close up here. Now, each little like vesicle, it almost looks like a little cone shape. Water would flow through the coral, and along with like little microorganisms and things like that, and they would eat that kind of stuff. They'd filter out the water, take the oxygen, pump out other stuff. They would take sand and use it as a structure to build the coral out of, and release the oxygen, which is locked into the sand, SiO2, right? Si, silica, O2, oxygen. And they would release the oxygen. So these guys are great oxygen producers, and that's why coral reefs are trying to be, try to protect those, right? But yeah, these guys are very, very cool. All right, so we've finally made it through this flat. Now we're going to look at some pendants, some jewelry. Why not? Let's do it. So, like I said before, we have all sorts of stuff, right? We have, stuff. We do woodworking. We have jewelry. We have minerals. We have fossils. We have like handmade leather and bone goods. So all sorts of stuff. In this case, we have lots of pendants. So we have various artists. This includes myself and my dad. Him and I both run our business together. We also have a lot of artists in and around Southern California, and that make this kind of stuff for us. So we really try to, as a local business, kind of celebrate and kind of feature other local artists and businesses, because I scratch your back, you scratch mine. Big companies aren't going to look out for the little guy. The little guys have to look out for all the other little guys. So, yeah. So these are all locally handmade pendants. So I guess I'll just kind of go through this and kind of showcase the first two here. This will get rid of a lot of stuff here. So, all right. So we have these Tree of Life pendants, and they're both. We have a circle variety, which is $14, which is this guy right here. And these are set in sterling silver. And as we can see, we have all the chakra stones here. So these are like chakra Tree of Life pendants. Now, $14 for this piece, set in sterling silver. It does come with a cord. We have a bunch of kind of cheap cords for people, but we also can acquire some sterling silver chain if you'd like that too. It just costs more. So Just keep that in mind. So I'd recommend going out and getting a chain if you're going to buy a pendant like this. But yeah, I mean, these are very, very beautiful, very pretty. And again, sterling silver, that's a symbol of the moon, lots of moon energy. So very, very cool. And next we have a heart-shaped Tree of Life pendant, which is really pretty. This is one of our more popular items here. Again, we have all this, the chakra stones, we have amethyst, we have some sodalite, aquamarine, peridot, citrine, we have some garnet and some carnelian as well. Again, set in sterling silver. A lot of our pieces are set in sterling silver because sterling silver is not corrosive, so it will not corrode when you put it in water. So you can wear this stuff in the shower, which is kind of nice. So again, this guy here is $18. So we have quite a few Tree of Life pendants. We have quite a few that are in the circle variety, and we have quite a few that are in the heart variety. So if you want one of these, again, all right, we'll put one aside for you. Again, if you guys want one, we have a lot. They're all basically the same. So, don't gotta worry about any variation with this kind of stuff. But with these next pendants here, these are all of our cabs, and our cabs have a lot of variation. So just keep that in mind. All right, so this is some chlorite howlite, and we have two pendants here of it. This is a $12 pendant of chlorite howlite. This is a chlorite howlite cab set in sterling silver. So we have this kind of like key lime pie green, right? It's like a very light seafoam green color. As we can see, being a cab, it has a flat back. So these are very, very pretty. This is a $12 pendant. The dark mineral here you see, that is manganese. So that forms when you have oxidation of the mineral. So very, very neat. Now, next on the list, we have our other green chlorite howlite specimen. This is a bit larger. This is a $15 pendant. Again, that beautiful kind of key lime green color, very, very light, set in sterling silver again. I just to kind of get it out of the way, all of our pendants that I'm showing here are set in sterling silver. So, which is great because you can wear it in the shower. It's not going to corrode, which is why it's so nice. But yeah, again, this guy is $15. Very, very cool. All right. Next, we're going to show some picture jasper. This is a very pretty cap. Picture jasper, you can find a lot of this in Eastern Oregon, and you can also find a lot of it in China. In fact, oftentimes the deposits here, these iron and manganese deposits, which is this darker mineral in here, trapped in the jasper, they look very like dendritic or tree-like. And oftentimes you can find big plates that are in China that are just like basically big slabs that have been polished, and of this stuff, and it looks like a beautiful mountainscape with little manganese deposits which look like trees on the mountainside. I have one of these, and I have it like in my room, and it's absolutely gorgeous. I love looking at it. But again, this is like having it around your neck, right? So set in sterling silver. This guy here is $14, so not a bad price for one of these. Let's look at the back too. So all these cabs, a cabochon is basically if you don't know, it's a stone that has been rounded and polished and set to jewelry. So a cabochon has a flat back, so it can lay or rest on your chest very nicely. And the surface is rounded and kind of concave, so it's, you know, kind of like bubbles out, which is kind of nice. All right, so the next kind of series I'm going to show here, these are going to be our agate pendants. We have 3 different types. We have one carnelian agate, which is in the teardrop shape. Very pretty. Pretty translucent as well. So if we look, kind of turn it around here, look at all those layers in there. Lots of strata. This is very cool. Again, also set in sterling silver. Now, this guy, price-wise, we're looking at $16 for this piece. So not bad. And, you know, it's kind of reminiscent of those carnelian palm stones we showed earlier. So, you know, it's, again, very, very pretty material. Next, we're going to look at another $16 agate pendant. This one is really cool. This is what we call an eye agate. It has like these little round vesicles inside. You could also call this a moss agate as well. So it's very cool. Again, some translucency there. Set in sterling silver. This piece is $16. And like I said, just kind of as a reminder for all of our kind of new people that popped in, all of our pendants are set in sterling silver, and if you want one, you know, they do come with a little kind of like a cheap chain. We have a bunch of cheap like neck ropes, but I would recommend definitely, if you're going to get one of these, you want to, you know, put it on a nice chain or something. We also have chain, but it's pretty expensive because it's like sterling silver, gold, and whatnot. So if you do want a chain, just let us know, and we'll let you know what the full price of the thing would be. Next, we have a $14 agate pendant. This is absolutely gorgeous. This is definitely a moss agate. So moss agate usually has these little dark inclusions in it that make it look kind of mossy or dirty. But look at the layering in there. Look at that. Imagine wearing this, you know, out, you know, on a sunny day. You know, this is very pretty. And these are nice because they let a lot of light through, you know. Set in sterling silver. Again. Let's see if we can get a close-up here of this pendant. I really like this one. On camera focus. There we go. So as we can see, that all the layers in there, absolutely gorgeous. This is a $14 pendant. So not bad for a piece like that. All right, next we're going to look at some points, some carved points. Now these are our chakra points, and our chakra points have little cute, a couple millimeter wide chakra stones embedded on them. And these, I mean, I think these are really neat. Well, I guess I'll just show them. Just take a look. So we have this gorgeous dark amethyst obelisk point that's been carved, set in sterling silver again. And along the facet, you have all these chakra stones just kind of trailing down. So this is really nice if you want to have like a really kind of like nice, balanced piece to wear if you're really into the chakras and metaphysical stuff, and you want to have all the stones with you. This is like a really nice thing to do. Just like our Tree of Life pendants in a way, you know, you're carrying all that energy with you. So, you know, if that's your thing, that's your thing. And it's a great price too. This guy right here, let's see, this is a $12 pendant. So not bad at all. All right, next we got another $12 pendant. This is a lapis lazuli pendant that's been carved. Same kind of thing, right? We got all of our chakra stones here set in sterling silver. Very pretty. Lapis lazuli, of course, has pyrite in it. Besides being a beautiful royal blue color, the pyrite is like this golden glitter inside, and it's great for grounding you. If you feel like you're all aloof and all in the air, you gotta bring yourself back down to earth. This is a great thing to have. All right, we'll put this aside for you. $12. All right, got it there. Next, we got 2 more chakra points. We got this gorgeous aquamarine chakra point here. Let's see if this is actually aquamarine. Let's check. Nope. I would say this is amazonite. Yeah, they look very similar. Alright, so this is an amazonite point. It's been carved. Again, we got those chakra points in there, those chakra stones. And just the contrast between the rainbow of color you have here with this gorgeous kind of light, like I would say like a tropical sea blue color. I mean, it's just a very beautiful color combo, color contrast. Very nice. So this guy here is $15. Not a bad price. And also the length is a bit longer from the other ones as well. So very, very cool. These are really cool. And also too, I just noticed this, the tip of this is a lot brighter than the base here, which is really neat. Yeah, I really like that. Very pretty. $15 for that guy. And then we have our clear quartz chakra point. This is our last one. We used to have quite a few more, but they disappeared real fast. So again, we have our chakra stones on the facet, and then we have our clear quartz, which has been cut into a point. You know, again, I mean, just look at the quality of that quartz too. Very clear. Huh. You can even see the chakra stones reflecting off of the inside of the facet there. Very cool. This is a $15 point here, $15 pendant, set in sterling silver. That's beautiful. All right, we're going to move on to our next little pendant here. We've got 3 more to show. These are kind of like a random assortment of pendants now. This is an opalite pendant. Now, opalite is very pretty, very light refractive. As we can see, there's like some fire here. So again, you know, all of our pieces look way better in the sunlight, right? If you put this out in the sunlight, it would look beautifully orange, yellow, and red. It would just light the hell up. It's absolutely gorgeous material. Very pretty, set in sterling silver. And this is something that would like really stand out. I mean, like even at a distance, it's definitely very eye-catching, for sure. Now this piece here is $14. So again, not a bad price for a pendant like that. Next, we got some beautiful scotilite. And scotilite is this kind of white bloom-like mineral. I like to associate it with like kind of like seeds, like daisy seeds or like dandelion seeds. You know, like a little gosh, what are those called? But yeah, they're kind of like, looks kind of cotton-like or fluffy. It's very, very beautiful. So this piece here, this is a $10 piece, set in sterling silver. And again, we have some interesting light play here as well. So it kind of shimmers in the light depending on where you kind of like position the stone. So it's very pretty. All right, finally, we have some black tourmaline. We have a black tourmaline pendant. This piece here is $19, set in sterling silver. And black tourmaline is a very protective stone. We don't have many of these left. So as we can see, we have a nice like oxidation on here as well. This oxidation here, this is actually from like melting the silver solder onto the stone. So it's actually like it hasn't been like cleaned up, which is actually kind of nice. This was actually done on purpose. So very pretty. You know, black tourmaline is great for kind of like diffusing and getting rid of negative energy. So if you want to kind of cleanse your house, cleanse you know, yourself, cleanse the people around you, wearing this is actually very nice. Again, this piece is $19. All right. Alrighty, well, let's see what else we got here. We got quite a few stuff here. We got one more flat, which is a fossil plate flat. I think I'm going to show only 3 of these because these are, you know, pretty fragile. This is a $100 bug-eaten fossilized leaf. This is really cool. Take a look. These are from Utah. Now this is from the shore of the Great Seaway. This is about 250 million years old. And, you know, it's kind of neat. Whenever we think about fossils, we think about the dinosaurs and the fish and everything else that got fossilized, which we do. We have some fossilized fish. But, you know, sometimes we forget that, you know, trees got fossilized too. Leaves as well. So, to have, you know, any kind of fossil form, you need the creature, the organism to deposit, to die, basically, and very quickly get covered. So you need some sort of mass deposition of material to trap it into the rock. If you don't have that, it's just going to wither away and not preserve. So again, this piece here, $100. All of our fossil stands do come with plexiglass and or metal stands. The metal stands do cost a little bit extra. The plexiglass stands are do actually come with the piece. So, but you know, you don't have to worry about like displaying these properly. I mean, these are absolutely gorgeous. This is a fossilized fern from Coal City, Pennsylvania. This piece is $42, a bit cheaper, right? It's a bit smaller. These ferns are all over the place, and notice the dark color, right? This is oil shale, so it's going to be dark, very carbon rich. Hence the name of where it comes from, Coal City, right? So, yeah, kind of give you an idea of where this kind of environment is. These would be found in a swamp, right? So you had some sort of deposition in a swamp-like area. So, which is where these guys were buried and preserved. Very neat. Our next plate that we're going to show is pretty big. It's pretty massive. It's a big fish. This guy is $95, and he's from Utah. He's looking for a good home. And, yeah, you know, he just wants to say hello to you guys. So this single little critter here, this little fish, this guy is $95. This would be great to kind of hang on a wall. Again, we have stands and stuff for these guys, so you don't got to worry about that. But again, you know, these guys are really neat. The preservation is so just extraordinary. I mean, look at that. You have every little single fish bone in there. And imagine, you know, you gotta think, when you're excavating this stuff out, right? You are looking at like sandstone or, you know, some sort of chalky limestone. You know, this kind of material is very easily weathered. So most of these fossils end up getting weathered away. And when you do happen to find a piece like this, it's trapped in between laminated layers of rock. So you gotta very carefully like split the rock in half to like kind of reveal the fossil inside. Now the reason that these laminations split, generally these fossils are actually found, you know, in between a layer, right? So that's, you know, how they form. And because the fossil itself is a different like density than the rock around it, it actually is like a point of weakness. So when you find a rock with a fossil in it and you break it at a certain angle, it will most likely break where the fossil is. So kind of a neat little thing there. All right, these are our fossil plates. All right, let's put all this stuff over here. We got a lot of stuff to show today. There's about 3 more flats, I think, which is not bad. I will go through the rest a little slowly so we can reach our 3 p.m. timeline. Just so you guys know, we have about an hour left of our stream. So, and we will be doing this every Sunday. We'll be doing this next Sunday, which will be June 14th. Kind of a neat thing. Every 7 days do a stream, right? So hopefully you guys will tune in for that. Alright, let's take a look here. What do we got here? We got some celestites. Nice. Alright, we got some celestite clusters. Let's take a look here. Take a look at these guys. Alrighty. And just as a reminder, if you are watching this as a video on demand, on YouTube probably, or on Twitch, these streams are all uploaded to YouTube. So definitely check it out on there. Every weekend we upload them. And if you're watching this and you see, like, you know, for example, this beautiful $14 celestite cluster, and you're like, I want this, send us a message. Send us a message on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, Instagram, anything. Send us an email, call us, and say, hey, that stream that you did on that day, is that mineral or fossil still available from 3 minutes and 45 seconds? And we will say, yes, it is. Or we'll say, no, it isn't. But if it is, it might still be available. So let us know, and yeah, we will get you all set up with an order. So, going back to these celestite pieces, right? These are clusters of celestite. These are from Madagascar. And the celestite from Madagascar tends to be this really nice kind of light steel blue color. It's actually like I guess it would be like a sky blue, I guess. That'd be more like a sky blue color, I think. And celestite is a type of calcium carbonate, so it weathers very easily. I would not recommend putting these in a bathroom or in a place that has direct exposure to water or water vapor. They will kind of get all weird. So just kind of keep these in a mineral box or put it on your shelf somewhere. Put it in your living room. These are very, very like pretty. They're cool. They're a bit fragile, so don't, you know, handle them too roughly. And they're $14 each. Very cool. That was one of them. And, you know, speaking of places that are very, like, rich in mineral wealth, Madagascar is one of those places that has a ton of cool stuff. I mean, I can't say enough good things about it, right? You got things like pink quartz, celestite, calcite, you have wolfenite, you have all sorts of other minerals. I mean, there's some of the prettiest fossils and minerals from around the world come from Madagascar. Madagascar has a very interesting geologic history. So, you know, as you can see from this interesting mineral we have here. So, and also to the beautiful color of the celestite, you know, I mean, I just love it. Very kind of like a calming effect. Generally blue colors, blue shades will give you kind of like a calming effect psychologically. So metaphysically speaking, yeah, I mean, the color blue, any blue minerals are going to be very calming. They're going to be associated with the water. So just kind of keeping that in mind. Again, these are all $14 each. So not a bad price for some of these guys. So very cool. Now we're going to show our next one here. And these guys are all a little bit different. I mean, the consistency of the mineral is like the same, right? I mean, it's all going to be like this blue color. This one has some larger crystals on it, though, which is kind of neat. Yeah, these are really, really pretty. So notice that facet right there. Having those nice facets on celestite, that's very difficult because it's such a fragile mineral. It will easily just erode and break. So, you know, I mean, even the matrix that it's in is kind of like this kind of ashy sort of sediment. So when you're handling these, you just got to be, you know, handle it with care. Don't gotta be so rough. All right, so next, this is a slightly bigger piece of celestite. We have 3 massive pieces of celestite that are about the size of a basketball. And they're very large clusters. And the crystal size, I mean, like one of the crystals inside of them is like about the size of a baseball or a softball. So just to kind of give you guys an idea of like the size range, we have celestite that's tumbled. We also have this stuff. And these are kind of like our decent, like, you know, mid-ranged clusters. But we don't have anything a little bit larger than this. After this is like we have these large, like $200 and $300 clusters that are about the size of a basketball. And they're heavy, they're beautiful. It's kind of crazy to think that we have stuff like that. But we do. We have all sorts of stuff. Alright, we're going to move on to our next little cluster here. Yeah, and just as a reminder for you guys watching on YouTube, you know, if there's something you see on here that you like, just message us, send us a PM, and we'll get your order set up after the stream. This piece is really pretty. Yeah, I mean, that light reflective index, you know, just the way the light plays with the mineral, that's something that is, you know, just so pretty, just seeing that in a lot of different minerals. Hey, you even have a little rainbow right there on the left side. Look at that. Oh, that's really cool. Wow. Yeah, so those little rainbows that you see inside minerals like that, that's due to microcrystalline fracturing. So the crystal itself will have these tiny little hairline fractures, and the fracture itself serves as a surface by which the light can reflect and refract off of. And so when the light does refract from that little surface, it will appear to our eye as a little rainbow. So now this is a really cool piece. This is just a solid chunk of celestite. No matrix at all. It's just celestite. That's all it is. We don't have any other pieces like this. I would say this is our only piece. This is probably our largest solid piece of celestite. So, and it's $14, which is not bad. Let's see if we can get a closer look here at the crystal here. Yeah, I mean, just take a look at that light play there. Now, this would be a nice piece for like meditation or just to have, you know, add to your mineral collection. To be honest, this would actually be a really nice lab sample, you know. Yeah, no, I know what you mean. I mean, it's like, you know, a lot of pieces on here will be, you know, I mean, I'll want to do something with it, you know, but like, not everybody has a like an X-ray diffraction device in their home. Those things are millions of dollars sometimes, and if you guys don't know what that is, that's a machine where you could take basically a mineral sample or just a sample of anything, and you dissolve it in acid, and you shine or fire X-rays at it. The X-rays will actually diffract off of the minerals and the chemicals inside, and at a certain vibration or frequency. And when they do that, what they'll do is they will bounce back to a little feed, so like a little laser reader, and depending on the wavelength that they come back at, you can determine what an object is made out of. So you can say, oh, I'm going to crush up this mineral into a dust, dissolve it in acid, and put this into an X-ray diffractor, and then put it through. X-rays are fired, and you're like, oh, there's this much silica in there, there's this much oxygen, there's this much carbon, there's this much cobalt or whatever. So kind of a neat little thing. This is our last celestite cluster that we're going to show today. Look at this. Just the druzy on there is beautiful. Absolutely gorgeous. Yeah, I just love these pieces. Absolutely gorgeous. Yeah, these are really nice. All right, so that does it for our $14 celestite pieces. These clusters are beautiful. Let us know if you want some. We got a lot. All right. Next, I think what we're going to do is we're going to look at some. I think we'll end with our fine mineral specimens, and we're just going to look at our trilobites right now. Yeah, our trilobites, and we have a ton of different trilobites from various parts of the world. These are all trilobite. Oh, these are our trilobite plates, actually. I had no idea that's what was in here. Oh, I guess this is in the box. All right, these are all $13 each. No, $16 each. And these plates are all from Utah, and they're really cool. These trilobites, the place that they form in, it's like a kind of like a laminated shale. So the trilobites are a little flattened. That's kind of common with this this variety of trilobite too, where these are found. To give you an idea, this is what they look like. So as you can see, we have our trilobite here, and the trilobite was called a trilobite. Let's I'll pronounce it a little slower. Trilobite, and it stands for a three-lobed creature, three-lobed organism, and it has three lobes. It has a head, abdomen, and tail, and it's so three lobes, tri, and these creatures are actually very prominent back in the Paleozoic. And what's unfortunate is that they all died off in a mass extinction event, all of them around the world. So, but the trilobite was one of the most diverse organisms on the planet. The trilobite, there was about, I would say, as far as I know, there's it's about 6,000 or 7,000 different species of trilobite. Some of them had armored, thick armored scales. Some of them had spikes on their scales. Some of them had like these weird eyes that would extend out from their body like a snail. All sorts of weird stuff. And this was during a time in Earth's history where like evolution was just crazy. There was just all sorts of creatures, had all sorts of weird things going on. And it was kind of like life was kind of figuring out what worked and what didn't work. Now, if something didn't work, that creature would die off immediately. That gene pool would just be gone. And that's natural selection for you. So only the toughest would survive with the best traits. The trilobite, sadly, it's thought that some sort of extraterrestrial event caused the extinction of these little guys and a lot of other little guys in the ocean, and which is kind of sad. There's ideas, that it could have been some sort of supernova from another solar system, and it was just aimed right at us. So some sort of like, when you have a supernova, usually you have a star imploding and you have these huge jets of very hot material that would wipe out anything. Just a ton of like radiation, the gamma rays. So, a gamma ray burst from another, from a imploding star would probably do it. There have been some studies done on these guys. I'm going to show the next one here. This guy's kind of cute. They're a small guy. Again, these are all $16 each. There have been some studies done that basically say that there's iridium layers. Iridium is found in areas where you have asteroid or comet impacts, and it only forms in places like that. It comes from asteroids, primordial objects in space. And there have been some papers about maybe some iridium, but there's not. I mean, back earlier in Earth's history, there was a ton of impacts all over the place. And these iridium layers, you had fossils that were deposited pretty much like on top of these layers, and significant layers between the iridium and the fossil. So I don't think there's any real correlation between the asteroid impacts and the extinction. So far, the best theory that we have is that there was some sort of extraterrestrial event, like a supernova or a gamma ray burst, that wiped out life on the planet. And this was during the Permian extinction event, and about 98% of all life on the planet died. Imagine that. Life only survived around deep sea vents and algae that was living on ice that covered the planet. So after this event happened, our climate was severely affected, and the whole planet was covered in huge ice sheets. This is a period of Earth's history called Snowball Earth. Look it up. It's very cool. The whole planet was covered in ice. Literally the whole planet. And, anything that couldn't survive in that kind of habitat would die. So a lot of deep sea creatures around deep sea vents survived, obviously. And then algae living on the surface of the ice would, take in the sunlight through photosynthesis and survive. So, this is a very kind of hellish and unstable time of Earth's history. So as you can see, these guys kind of range in size, right? We have that one, and then we have this guy. Now, all the trilobites, though, they're all about the same size, and these are all the same price. These are all, $16 each, so it really depends on which one you want. So we have this guy, which is kind of like, there's not a lot of matrix, but we have a huge specimen. And then we have this guy where there's quite a bit of matrix, but the specimen is kind of tiny. But the specimen's pretty intact, so each piece has its qualities. So, again, if you guys are interested in some of these, we don't mind taking some pictures for you to kind of pick and choose from. Some of them have 2 trilobites on them, like this cutie. Look at that. Very cute. Yeah, so these are all shale. Yeah, the matrix is shale. These guys are just adorable. I would say that our biggest specimen here is probably this one. Now, species-wise, because there's, you know, like over 6,000 species or something like that, it's like there's quite a few really common species of trilobite, and you know, I don't know off the top of my head what species they are, but I have a chart in my workshop with you know, like it's like an image chart of each species and their characteristics. So you know, I'm like, you know, there's a ton of stuff like that online. There's been thousands of papers written on these guys, so definitely if you're into these kind of things, definitely look up the information. All right, so that does it for our $16 trilobites, our little trilobite plates from Utah. So next we're going to look at our last flat for the day, and our last flat is our fine mineral specimen flat. And I don't know what we got in here. Could be something cool, could be something small, something big. I have no idea. So let's take a look. So like medium-sized pieces. All right, I'll take it. I'll take it. So what do we got here? We got all sorts of stuff. So let's begin. We got some phantom amethyst from Namibia. And this phantom amethyst is very cool. We call these phantom blooms because they're kind of like bloomed out like a little blossom. Take a look at that. Absolutely gorgeous. And there you go, look at that. It's like a little bloom, like a little flower bloom, right? This piece here is $28. So, you know, not a bad price for something like this. This is a fine specimen. So a lot of these are just very, very pretty, right? There's something very unique about them. They could be very rare, you know, fragile, that kind of thing. So just to, you know, give you guys an idea of why some of these might be a little pricey. All right. So next we got another phantom amethyst from Namibia. This is another bloom, and I'm gonna kind of give a little close-up of the phantoms here. See if we can get a close look here at those phantoms. Yeah, there we go. So those little dark facets in there inside the crystal, those are your phantoms. Now phantoms form when you have a unstable crystal growth, and what can happen is that maybe the heat would change, or maybe the pressure would change, or maybe some sort of chemical is introduced into the area that these are forming. That change will yield a different layer being deposited on top of the crystal point. And that little change can actually, you know, be very drastic. You could have, you know, one day there's iron being deposited, the next there's no iron. It could be a very subtle change like that, and it completely, you know, changes the look of the crystal. So because of this, you get these little layered phantoms that are kind of trapped inside. So what will happen is that maybe there was it looks like there was some sort of introduction of iron, and the iron ran out, and then you had a clear amethyst deposit out on top of that, which is trapping that iron-rich layer inside the crystal, creating the phantom. So size-wise, what we're looking at is a pretty decent sized piece here, pretty large, and from a distance too, you can even see those phantoms, which is really nice. All right. Next, we're going to look at another amethyst piece. This is more phantom amethyst from Namibia. This is more of a massive point, really. But again, more of those phantoms. Very pretty. This piece here is $19. And these phantom amethysts, you know, like, that are kind of popular, like, you know, phantom amethyst from Namibia. Namibia is kind of like well known for this kind of thing. So certain regions just are great for producing this kind of stuff. Just the geologic conditions were just right. So this piece is very, very pretty. All right, we're going to move on to our next little piece here. This is another amethyst. This is another phantom amethyst from Namibia. This piece is kind of neat because it's like a little phantom amethyst druzy. It's very sparkly and very pretty. Yes, it is a very pretty phantom amethyst. We even have a little tiny calcite crystal growing right here. Very neat. Yeah, I mean, just taking a look at this, you know, a lot of these pieces have like these, especially the druzy, has such a, like so many facets. It just looks like a disco ball. It's very sparkly. This kind of stuff is definitely very sought after for sure. And then if we turn it around, we have this beautiful layer cake of agate here. We get to see the matrix of the stone. And amethyst forms a lot in basalt, so you're going to find, you know, the matrix rock right here, which is basalt, you know, kind of with amethyst quite often. So very cool. And then this piece here is $24, so not bad. Next, we're going to look at some lepidolite from Minas Gerais, Brazil. And lepidolite is a type of muscovite mica that has lithium in it, which gives it the purple color. As it's high in lithium and aluminum, and lepidolite is usually found in metamorphic rocks where you have well, metamorphic or igneous rocks where you have lots of mineral-rich pegmatites. And what can happen is you can have like just an intrusion of lithium for some reason. There's just a deposit there. Lithium is pretty rare, so you know it's not super common. Yeah, it's lepidolite is just not that common at all. What's nice about these slices though is that they're pretty translucent. So if I get a light here, so let's kind of do this display. So I got this light. I'm going to shine it through. Take a look at that. Immediately lights up. What's kind of interesting about the lepidolite from Minas Gerais is that the lepidolite is usually lined with a layer, a little line, you can even see it there, of muscovite, yellow muscovite along the edge. See that yellow edge on the outside? That is muscovite. So that's a kind of a characteristic unique to Minas Gerais. Very pretty stuff. Next, we're going to show our another lepidolite mica piece. This piece is a little thinner, so you can see like right through it. You can even see my finger on the other side. Take a look at that. That's really neat. This kind of thing is like uncommon to see. Very clear, translucent mica. Mainly just because, you know, there's so many impurities, it's going to just make it very cloudy. So this kind of stuff is very, very cool. And then to give you guys an idea of pricing for these, they're both $22, which is not that bad at all for pieces like this. So very, very cool. Very pretty. And you can even notice too that a lot of these will have this kind of hexagonal shape just in general to them, and they actually form in they tend to form like this, just in these like hexagons, and in like these huge long rods. So for whatever reason the crystal likes to grow like that. I don't know, probably has something to do with the heat and pressure and the direction of growth. Alright, so next I'm kind of like focusing on color here. Next, we're going to look at a fluorite cluster from Durango, Mexico. This is purple fluorite. This is from a new find, a relatively new find. It's been around for maybe a year or two. And it's cubic fluorite. As you can see here, it's very pretty stuff. Pretty translucent. Now, usually, like, you know, as a rock hound, you know, there used to be some deposits of purple cubic fluorite in North America, particularly like the United States. Those deposits have long been exhausted. I think they were exhausted back in the 70s and 80s, so we don't find that anymore. So there wasn't really a good source of cubic fluorite that was purple for quite some time until fairly recently, when they found some pockets of it in Durango, Mexico. So definitely one of those things where, as a mineral collector, it could be very common and cheap one day, and then it can be super expensive the next. Best recent example of that is grape agate. Grape agate used to be just, I don't know, like 8 years ago, used to be like super cheap. Now it's super rare, and you can't find it anywhere. So, just is what it is, I guess. I mean, just take a look at that cubic structure there. Very, very pretty. Cubic fluorite, or just anything very cubic like this, is going to be very grounding. It's also great for creativity and structure. If you are lacking structure in your life, this can be nice. This piece here is $42. So not too bad. Alright, we're going to move on to our next specimen here. Kind of going with a theme here of color. We're going to look at our only blue piece here. This is a dumortierite in quartz specimen. Dumortierite is a aluminum borate mineral, and it's basically it's very high in aluminum, and it gives it this blue color. And it's a very fibrous mineral and tends to just form in quartz crystals like this in very thin layers. This stuff is, it was only found, as far as I'm aware, you can only find it in a mine in Peru in the mountains, and it's very difficult to get there. And the person that owns the mine now, I guess the mineral is starting to become exhausted, and they have closed off the mine to all access. I'm not really too sure if it's still available or not. There might not be any more being made, like produced by the earth. So, and this guy is $20. So, pieces like this, this would be like a nice investment for the future. I guess. It is a fairly rare mineral. You do not find it often, so definitely a very unique piece here. So for $20, you can get this piece. Now, you can find some dumortierite in Madagascar too, but it's not like the same. So next, we're going to look at a $50 AAA quality aquamarine. I'm going to show it in case first. As we can see, this is our aquamarine. And it comes in a nice display case like this. This is a piece that you'd want to either display, turn into jewelry, cut into a, like a faceted stone, or just put in a safe. These are very, very expensive. This is from Pakistan, and they form in pegmatites. Aquamarine is a type of beryl mineral, and this beautiful piece here, this is just absolutely gorgeous. Just the way it catches the light. I'm going to see if I can kind of get a backdrop here for you guys. So it's a very light blue color, and just taking a look at this, you can see that there's some fracturing inside, but not a lot. It's fairly consistent. Any fracturing at all is just some microcrystalline fractures. So you're gonna have like a few rainbows in there, which is always kind of nice. But again, very, very cool. This is, again, $50. So, and this is priced out by the gram. We used to have another piece just like it, and it sold. So we only have one piece left apparently. And just take a look at that. Absolutely gorgeous. All right, we're going to move on to our next specimen here. Next, we're going to look at some moldavite. I think we had a customer looking at some of these the other day, yeah, I think we'll just kind of look at some of them. We have 5 specimens of moldavite from the Czech Republic. Moldavite is a form of impact glass, and it's very rare. I mean, usually it forms and you have an impact from like a meteor, an asteroid, something that carries a lot of force with it, and it basically vaporizes and melts the soil. So whether it's sand in the Sahara, whether it's dirt in your backyard, glass will form, and this color of moldavite is very rare, and this stuff is very expensive. So this is again more of a higher class kind of mineral. This is a $172 moldavite specimen, and gram wise this is 8.57 grams. So it's pretty massive, pretty large for moldavite pieces. Something you'd want to put into jewelry or something like that. We have a couple pieces just like it that are a little bit smaller. As we can see, it's this kind of stuff. It does range in size. So the pieces that are really nice to work with, like jewelry and stuff like that, are these nice thicker pieces because there's more of the specimen you can kind of grind away and work with. So again, this piece here, $172, 8.57 grams from the Czech Republic. Next, we're going to kind of work our way down the price list here. This is a $123 moldavite piece, which is 6.11 grams. This one is kind of neat because it's kind of pitted, kind of like a little meteorite or an asteroid. Lots of little pockets of air kind of bursting, very like primordial. So, which is kind of neat. And the moldavite from the Czech Republic is this classic forest green color. It's very beautiful. That's absolutely gorgeous. Alright, next we are going to be looking at this $119 moldavite specimen, which is just 6 grams. So gems like this are commonly just priced out by gram. Just like any other resource, like gold or nickel or iron. So there's a standard price for it, and that is generally determined by the amount of the thing you're selling. So depends on the quantity that is on Earth. That determines the price, the rarity of it. Alright, next we're going to be looking at this $108 moldavite specimen, which is 5.42 grams. Yeah, take a look at that. Yeah, the color is just great. Commonly, just like historically, I should say, cultures in Eastern Europe and places like that would use things like moldavite and carve them into fetishes. So like a little carving that you'd have around your neck. Usually it would be like talismans that would, be carved into animal heads or little things like that. It's a cultural heritage piece for the people that live in the Czech Republic. It's one of those things where it's like, that's, if you go to the Czech Republic, you're going to find moldavite. And that's going to be, in the shops and stuff. You're going to see it all over the place. If you go to any of the Baltic states, you're going to find amber. That's just what they like. That's what they have. So, minerals that are found in a certain region tend to hold lots of cultural and historical significance. This last piece of moldavite that we have here is kind of nice. It's kind of thick and thin in some parts. It's a $92 piece of moldavite, which is 4.53 grams. Very cool. Yeah, these pieces are absolutely gorgeous. Alrighty. Let's move on to our next little set here. We'll look at some blue topaz from Brazil. Alright. So topaz is a pretty hard mineral. You can scratch glass with it. It's pretty insane. So usually you're going to find topaz in areas where there's lots of uplift, so mountain ranges, right? Lots of heat and pressure. These pieces are rough pieces of topaz. This piece here is a $35 piece of topaz. This would be something that you want to keep, like in your pocket, put, on a necklace, cut into a gem, like a faceted gemstone. We only have two pieces of topaz right now, and that's this. So we got this piece here, which is $35. And then we have this piece right here, which is $38. It's a bit bigger. And each piece has one facet as well, so it has one little window you can look into. But it's a fairly dense mineral. The molecules are densely packed in together. And I would say that if they were even closer together, you'd probably see no translucency at all. It takes a lot of heat and pressure to create these guys, so just keep that in mind. So next we're going to look at some quartz from Colombia, some of our classic Colombian quartz. Let's take this museum putty off. We use museum putty to kind of prop up our minerals here. So this piece here is $24, and it is absolutely gorgeous. Colombian quartz is in the same vein as Arkansas quartz, in the sense that it's very high quality and very consistent. Every single piece of Colombian quartz, I would say, is a museum quality piece. Just taking a look here at the clarity, at the quality of the quartz. Generally these points are very long, very clear, like I said, museum quality. So you cannot go wrong with a Colombian quartz point. This piece is $24 from Colombia. Absolutely gorgeous, and it's pretty large too, pretty massive piece. And there is some light refraction as well, So you're going to definitely see some of those, classic rainbows in there. So very, very pretty, for sure. Alrighty, let's put this one back. Alright, so next we're going to show another Colombian quartz point. This is a long point. This is what I'm talking about, those consistent long points. I'm going to see if I can get like a box here that's black to kind of outline this piece, because it's, I got to really showcase this. This is absolutely gorgeous. Take a look at that. Now, these points here, I've seen pieces of Colombian quartz in the Natural History Museum of London. These are like phenomenal specimens of quartz crystals, and it's definitely something that you'd find in a museum for sure. This piece here, oh, I should say the last piece, like, it was $24. This piece here is $45. So as you can see, it's quite a bit bigger. So, yeah, it's definitely a very cool piece for sure. Alrighty. Let's move on to our prehnite. Our prehnite, we actually have tumbled prehnite, and I found out recently that this is actually epidote in prehnite. So prehnite is like a matrix, and the epidote forms inside of the prehnite. Didn't know that, right? So prehnite is this kind of interesting light green mineral. Alright, in this case, this specimen is pretty dark. But notice how there's like a dark kind of core in the center. That is epidote. And the whole outer perimeter is just this botryoidal prehnite. It's very, very pretty. Now, when tumbled and polished, this stuff looks absolutely gorgeous. This piece here is $19. This next piece I'm going to show is $15. This piece actually has a large chunk of epidote in it, as we can see. And look at that botryoidal nature, that bubbly nature, right, of the prehnite. Very, very pretty. And we have our dark green epidote in the center. This guy is $15. And just the color by itself, I mean, I don't know. Usually colors like this are a little uncommon. They definitely stand out, especially where these are found. So imagine finding a pocket of this underground. Now these all come from Canada, so you're going to find these a lot in like upper mountain range areas where there's been some heat and pressure and some uplift. Very cool. This last piece has a tiny, tiny little rod of epidote in there. You can even like see a shadow of it kind of inside the mineral, right? So the prehnite is just covering up this whole thing, which is kind of neat. This piece here is $12. $12 for this piece. So not bad at all. I don't know. I kind of like these this key lime pie green color in minerals. I think it's kind of neat. Yeah, it's really cool. All right, next we're going to show some petroleum Herkimer diamonds. Shown these a couple times. We've I'd say every 3 shows we sell one. They're they're a bit expensive, but they're very cool. So petroleum Herkimer diamonds, I should explain petroleum first. So Herkimer diamonds are found in areas that are rich in carbon. So places that there's lots of oil, or you find lots of coal. So these actually, these are coming from Afghanistan, so there's lots of oil fields there. And Herkimer diamonds are not actually diamonds. They're made out of quartz crystal. And as we can see, they come in this nice little display case, and they're very pretty. In fact, these are more rare than actual diamonds. I would say for every 1 million diamonds, there's 100 Herkimer diamonds. That's the kind of scale you're talking about. That's how rare these are. Now, taking this out of its case, we can see that there's some dark spots in there. The dark spots tend to be some coal or anthracite, and those bright yellow pockets in there, that is the petroleum inside. Now, petroleum is fluorescent, and it will fluoresce kind of like a neon green color. And I happen to have a black light. So, we're going to check this out. I'm going to turn off one of the lights here, probably the front light, and check this out. So let's see if this works. Might have to turn off both. I don't know. I think it actually will work. So, yeah, so that glowing stuff in there, that is the petroleum. Here, I'm going to turn off the other light since it's kind of a little too bright here. All right. There we go. That's much better. So now, as we can see, it just glows. I mean, look at that. It's like a party in there. See if we can get a close-up of it. So the petroleum, we can see there's a lot in there, and you'd call this it would be a form of like anhydro, which means that there's liquid trapped inside the crystal. And for this to form, this actually had to form inside of a oil well. This formed inside of a pocket millions of years ago of oil. And the oil got trapped inside the crystal as it grew around the pocket of oil. So this piece here, let's take a look at the price. This is $99. So, like I said, they're a bit expensive, I know, but there's a freaking reason. They're so rare. So, now, a little story about Herkimer diamonds. I'm going to turn this off real quick and show the other one. Herkimer diamonds got their name from the little town of Herkimer in New York. And Herkimer, the town, is named after General Herkimer, and he was a Revolutionary War general, and trying to fend off the British retaking the United States, and he wanted to fund his army. So what he did was he ordered his men to go and search the forests for resources to mine or chop down or whatever and sell. And he came across these little crystals, and he looked at them and he said, "Oh my God, they must be diamonds." He wasn't a geologist, so he didn't know any better. So he ordered his men to mine them all. And after mining for about a month, he had an appraiser from France come over and a gemologist and look at them. And the gemologist told him that they were quartz crystals. They were not diamonds. And so they were deemed worthless, and General Herkimer threw them all away, just dumped them in the forest. Well, the name stuck, and Native Americans have been using them for all sorts of things, for religious practices for thousands of years. And so they have a very long history. Now they're big in the metaphysical community. What makes them special geologically is that they're naturally forming double terminated points. So that means they have 2 points, one on the top, one on the bottom, and they only form where there's carbon around, so coal or shale. New York has lots of coal mines, and so you can find these in New York. And the fact that it has carbon, the carbon locks itself in with the SiO2 and makes the crystal form these double terminations, which is really neat. So this one, again, petroleum Herkimer diamond. I'm going to kind of take out the light again. And this piece here is, well, let's just see. Let's see what kind of stuff it has in there. Okay, so yeah, we can see that there's quite a bit of petroleum there. So the petroleum is going to be basically just fluoresce. It's going to be all bright and pretty, right? And if you move this around very closely, you might even be able to see some air pockets inside, to see the fluid moving around. Generally, though, the pockets of fluid, of petroleum inside, are going to be so full that there won't be any air pockets inside. Because this was already trapped underground, so generally there wasn't any air exposure. All right. So, I think we're going to look at 3 more specimens, and then we're going to close our stream out for the day, since we're getting to that point, that time of day when it's done. So let's take a look here. What 3 should we look at? I think we'll look at this beautiful red quartz specimen from Arkansas. We're going to look at this beautiful and amphibole quartz from Brazil, and maybe this kind of pretty calcite cluster. Alright, so we got some amphibole quartz here from Brazil, and as the name states, amphibole quartz has amphibole in it, and generally this type of quartz is rough, so it's been polished, as you can see, and the amphibole is this kind of interesting kind of greenish, reddish, grayish material here that's intruded into the quartz. And if we look very closely, we can even see that these intrusions, these inclusions, are kind of like throughout this specimen. So you know, this kind of specimen, we're looking at a price of $34. Amphibole quartz is also pretty big in the metaphysical community. Very pretty. It almost looks like wood, right? It's petrified wood. It's not petrified wood, though. This kind of stuff would be classified as like a hydrothermal jasper, especially since you have lots of silica here that's coming out into like a quartz. It almost looks like a kind of some sort of like interesting ice cube with some sort of inclusion in it. So I think it's cool. Great for holding. Nice fine mineral specimen. $34. Absolutely gorgeous. Alright, next we're going to look at some red quartz from Arkansas. Back to our good old Arkansas quartz with the best quality quartz in the world. Right, so red quartz is not actually red. What gives it the red color, though, is iron oxide, which coats the surface of the crystal. So that red stuff there, that's basically just rust. The crystal itself is clear. It would be considered like white in color. And yeah, so I mean, it's not, I guess it is technically, you could say it's red, but it's not, the crystal itself is not red. It's just a coating on top of it. So this usually happens when you have a quartz crystal cluster that's been exposed to the open air for a while, like a long while, and iron oxide will coat the surface of it. So generally you need to have a very stable condition, a very stable environment for these to form that's undisturbed. So a lot of these actually you can find in Morocco and Madagascar, places that are very dry. So you know, you can see a lot of these coatings on various minerals in areas like that. This piece here, we're looking at $12 for. Not bad for a pretty point like this. Usually red quartz is pretty opaque and you don't really see through it because the coating is so thick. So this piece here is pretty nice because you can actually see through it and it's pretty clear. Alright, we're going to move on to our last piece. Oh my god. It's our last piece for the day. This is a calcite cluster. This is very tiny. This is from Durango, Mexico. And this is on earthy hematite, which is this red kind of matrix material here. And as we can see, this gorgeous, like, cluster here of just yellow crystals. I don't know how close I can get to these without the camera just being weird. Yeah, take a look at that. Absolutely gorgeous. This piece here is only $6. Now, these guys usually, okay, so these form in very dry environments. Calcite is an evaporate mineral, so you need the presence of evaporating water for it to form. So in this area, quite a bit of Mexico actually used to be covered in water back during the time of the dinosaurs, during the time of the Great North American Seaway, a couple 100 million years ago. And a lot of that whole area, I would say most of Mexico, was actually just underwater. And so there's a lot of like sea life down there, some fossils, lots of evaporate minerals, lots of calcites. So you definitely see this a lot in Mexico because of that. The hematite, generally you'll find this kind of stuff where you have like some sort of iron deposit. So clearly there was a iron deposit and the calcite formed on top of that. So, and we have all sorts of minerals like this. I'm going to show one more, because why not? This is a $4 cluster, and it's very fragile, very tiny, but it's really cool. Take a look at that. Clearly there was a iron deposit and the calcite formed on top of that. So the earthy hematite is almost like entirely calcified, which is kind of neat. And the calcite has made these like interesting little towery structures. Very, very pretty. This piece is only $4. So this is just another one of those like really pretty display pieces if you're looking for a fine mineral specimen. Very cool. All right. All right, well, I think that just about wraps us up for today. We're gonna do this stream again next Sunday. Got lots of things to show this time, so I'm gonna make a couple little statements here. Just like we say every other weekend, we do this every Sunday from 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We're based in San Diego, California. We have a website with an online store. Go check it out. Go to midgardmercantile.com. You can see it in the lower left-hand corner of the screen. Yeah, check out our online store. We have 57 varieties of tumbled stones. And also, too, as well, if you are watching this as a video on demand later on, and you see a mineral that you like, please go and message us and say, hey, is that mineral from 3 minutes and 45 seconds still available? And we'll probably say, yes, it is. And we will message you and get you an order set up. So yes, and that, again, all of our streams are uploaded to YouTube. So if you miss our stream, don't worry. You can easily find it on YouTube. The link is in the description. It's on our Twitch, and it's also on Facebook. So you guys have an excellent rest of your weekend, and we'll see you next Sunday at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Cheers.